So you want to build a beautiful Squarespace website but don't know where to start? When you first sign up for Squarespace, the first thing you're asked to do is pick a template. But that's where most beginners get stuck, feeling that they're trapped with one template forever and thinking that their website will look just like everyone else's. I'm Rach, and after building hundreds of Squarespace websites and mentoring hundreds of today's top Squarespace experts, I discovered a better way. In this step-by-step tutorial, I'll walk you through the entire process from sign up to launch using this website as an example. Stunning, responsive, and following SEO, speed, and accessibility best practices. I believe you deserve a website that you can be proud of, one that connects you to your dream clients. Instead of getting stuck choosing a template, we'll start with a blank canvas and learn the essential building blocks that will open the possibilities for you. I'll break down everything into simple steps, perfect for beginners. Grab a cup of coffee or any drink if you will. Follow along, and by the end of this video, you'll have the confidence to take your skills further and create a unique website that wows. Before we add any content, there are two important steps to make sure that your website loads fast and conveys the right message.
First, do you know the main thing that slows down most websites? It's the images. Hence, we need to minimize their sizes without affecting their quality. How? I developed the PixResize tool to help you do so instantly. Please watch the video on how to use it. Second, how will you know what content to include in your site? I also made it easy for you by developing an AI-powered content assistant. It will quickly suggest the pages, sections, and words to inspire your website content and structure.
Now, let me show you the smartest way to start a Squarespace project.
Instead of endlessly scrolling through these templates, simply head directly to the link that leads to our blank template. Why skip all those beautiful templates? The truth is that every Squarespace template is actually built from the same base framework. All these templates are simply demonstration of what's possible once you learn the essentials. You may actually start from a blank template and you'll be able to achieve all these layouts easily. So from now on, take this gallery of templates as inspirations instead of limitations. Simply click this button to start with this design and you'll be prompted to create your Squarespace account if you haven't done so just yet. Once logged in, we'll see the Squarespace dashboard. To familiarize ourselves with navigating the menu, let's head first to our asset library. Our site settings can be accessed through our sidebar. But this menu design often changes, so I recommend that we use this search icon or press the / key on our keyboard. Start by searching keywords. In this case, we type in asset. Once we're in the asset library, we can preload our images and videos. We may organize them using folders. Once the folders are created, we may move existing images to that folder by using this Move To button. We may also click the folder and drag and drop images and videos. Now we're ready to add pages and content. To do so, we head to the website menu through our sidebar. We may also use our keyboard shortcut. I'll click this edit button in the top left corner to enter edit mode. We'll then be greeted by this prominent add section button. Because each web page is built with sections. If you have an initial design like this, it's best to split the page into multiple smaller sections. This makes styling easier and later on reusing sections much faster. Note that having an initial design like this is completely optional. You may in fact use Squarespace as a design tool, but if you are more comfortable visualizing the layout, using a pencil, sketch, Canva, or other design software, feel free to do so. To add a section, we click this blue Add Section button. You'll see lots of pre-made layouts, but as with our template gallery earlier, these are just demos and a place where you can draw inspirations from. But let's start with a blank section. To do so, click this Add a Blank Section option, and this blue outline indicates the boundaries of our first section.
What makes Squarespace shine compared to other builders is how it makes adding content so simple. It has ready-made components that are built to be accessible and design forward.
Simply click this Add Block button. There are several block types available, which I recommend you to explore, but for now we'll add the most common ones. Starting with the image block. We may simply click the block name or drag it anywhere on this section. The blue outlines indicate the block area. We may position it by dragging it anywhere within the grid, and while we do so, we'll notice that the section grid shows up. This is where our elements snap into place. The yellow line shows up when the current block is centered horizontally. We may make the grid stay visible by pressing G on our keyboard, and we may press G again to hide this grid. Personally, I like keeping this grid visible. We may also move our block one column or row at a time by using our arrow keys. And to resize the block, simply drag the corner handles. To add the image, we click this plus button, which allows us to upload the file. But since we've already preloaded our images, we simply need to select from our library. Unsplash is also integrated into Squarespace, so if you don't have images yet, you may choose from these royalty-free options. But in this case, we choose from our library of photos and click the Add button to load it to our image block. When we click any block once, we'll find quick options such as specifying its alignment relative to the block area and available space. This pencil icon, on the other hand, will reveal the options for the block. These options will also show up when we double-click any block. Under the Block Content tab, we may attach a link, paste the full URL of an external link, or link to an internal page by choosing from this drop-down. Internal pages that we'll build later on will show up right here. Whenever attaching a link, I recommend clicking anywhere outside of the block and making sure that the link is reflected right on the content tab. Now, we'll have the option to change the file name and the alt text. You may ask, how are these two different? The file name may affect how the image can be accessed by image search engines, while the alt text is the most important for accessibility. It is how the image is described through voice to users who are visually impaired. Non-decorative images, especially those with attached links, are required to have alt texts. Both file names and alt text should accurately describe the image. For file names, though, it's best to separate words with underscores or hyphens and have the correct file extension. Under the Design tab, we'll have the option to choose how the image fits into the container. This fit option ensures the entire image is visible, while the fill option ensures the image covers the entire block area and will crop part of the image. When this fill option is chosen, I recommend checking the focal point of the image because we can move it to the part of the image of which visibility you would like to prioritize. I recommend trying to scale or shrink the browser size to better decide whether to use fit or fill, noting that users will view our site in different devices and browser sizes. We may also mask our image inside a shape. Feel free to explore these shape options, and we'll find that we'll also have the option to add rounded corners and specify the amount per corner. There are also cool image effects like grain and parallax that you may consider. Note though that this may not show up in some devices. In some cases, if you'd like to adjust the contrast of your images with other blocks, you may consider adding an overlay, and we can adjust the color as well as the opacity. And then you'll notice a lightbox toggle If this is toggled on, our image will enlarge once it is clicked. I'll adjust the size of our image block, and now we're ready to add more blocks, like the line block. Because we may place any block anywhere within the grid, we may actually overlap these blocks like so. And once at least 2 elements are overlapping, these options to manage the stacking, like moving backward or moving forward, will be available to us. In this case, I'd like the line block to be underneath our image. Hence, I will click this option to move backward. Now let's add a text block. Click to type in the text, and we may use the toolbar to change the format and style. For instance, we may choose the desired alignment. To add a similar text block, we may duplicate this first one by using the copy icon or the shortcut Command D on our keyboard. For Windows, that's Control D. We may also copy and paste blocks. For example, I can select this block and hit Command C on my keyboard, and then I'll click anywhere and hit Command V. To delete a block, we may use this trash bin icon or the delete key on our keyboard. If we'd like to select all elements within the section, we may press Command A on our keyboard, and you'll notice that when multiple blocks are selected, we'll have this alignment guides show up, allowing us to align our items relative to each other. For example, if I choose this align bottom option, they will be aligned to the bottom, but for this design, we actually want them to be vertically centered relative to each other, so I'll use this vertically centered option. Based on our design, we'd like these text blocks to be on opposite ends, so I'll bring this other text block to the end, and you'll find that there's an opportunity for us to use our alignment option within the block, because I like both of these text blocks to be vertically aligned to the center, like so. To deep dive into more text settings, let's add our second section. And again, I'll add a blank one. Make sure that we're adding it to the main page and not to the side footer. Let's add a text block again, and this time we'll paste the text for this section. And this is a perfect chance for me to point you to a critical text block setting that is often misused. It's the heading levels. It's easy to assume that we can assign them purely based on font sizes, but the heading levels dictate the structural outline of the web page that search engines and accessibility tools rely on. So we must be intentional in assigning them to rank in search and be compliant with accessibility legislations. To help plan the outline, think of these like chapters and sections in a book. Your H1 is the book title, H2 are the chapters, and the H3 are for the sections. I recommend mapping our heading levels per page to ensure that we follow best practices, such as having a single heading 1 element on the page that captures the essence of the entire page and ideally is optimized for search. Also, our heading levels should be sequential and that the overall structure makes sense logically. Based on our headings map, this part of our text block should have a level of heading 2, but it seems like the rest of the text followed. Let's make sure that they are separated by a full break, so I'll hit return on my keyboard so I can assign a different level for this text, and I will assign paragraph 2 to it, which is our standard paragraph text. We may now position it to match our design and add more blocks such as the images on both sides. In both images, I prefer the fit option and adjusted the alignment to the left and right. And within our text, we may also add call to action. We may select a text and attach a link to it. We may, again, choose from any of our internal pages. We may even attach a file, and clicking it will initiate a download. You may even consider copying and pasting icons from toptile.com or glyphy.io such that we can better visually indicate that we have a call to action. But if you wish to have a more prominent call to action, we may also add a button, and by default, the button adjust to the size of the block. If we'd like this to have consistent padding, then under Design, we'll choose the Fit option and define the alignment. When we click this drop down, we'll find that we can have 3 different button styles, which we can configure later on. But for this project, we'll just use our primary button. Every time you make a significant progress, I recommend clicking the Save button or pressing Command S on your keyboard, because Squarespace at the moment doesn't have an autosave feature. As long as we haven't exited our preview mode, we may still undo the changes. Clicking Exit will allow us to have a preview of our content so far. Up top, this desktop icon means this is a preview of our layout on desktop devices, while this mobile icon allows us to simulate how our page will look like on mobile.
As of 2024, mobile devices account for 64% of internet traffic. Thankfully, Squarespace gives us powerful control over our mobile layout.
You can position and size elements differently on mobile without affecting our desktop layout. Going back to our edit mode, I can resize our blocks and position them anywhere within the section without affecting the desktop view. Remember though that content, text formats, and color changes will affect both views. It's just the block positioning and sizing, stacking that can be mobile specific. It's best to always double check whether the desktop view is affected. By now, I'm sure you're excited to give your site a distinct branded look. To do so, we access our global styles by reaching the Styles menu or using this paintbrush icon. Let's start with the fonts. Squarespace has a collection of ready-made font pack to help you get started fast. Alternatively, we may access the settings for each key text category. Let's start with headings. First, we may choose the typeface or font family. We have a large collection of native ones. I also have a post where I shared my most favorite Squarespace fonts available in this font pick. In this project, we'll use Sophia Pro Condensed, but it seems like it doesn't show up in the built-in native fonts, but you can actually click this additional fonts for this option to show up. Feel free to adjust other font settings like line height while observing how it affects our preview. Note that these font settings will apply to all heading levels. Just configure what you need. In my projects, I tend to only have one heading style and one paragraph style for each section, so I would assign H1 and H2 to have the same size. It will allow me to follow the best practice to have a single H1 element on a page, but still have consistent heading size across sections visually. Now for the paragraphs, we have the same setting options. I'll keep it simple by using Arial, and the default paragraph type 2 is what I will adjust as needed. I can leave the other paragraph levels for now and just set them up when needed. We may then customize the button font. For this side, I just need the primary button, which I will assign as the same as the paragraph font Arial. Note that everything we set up here will be applied site-wide, but if we need to, we may customize the font settings of selected text element by clicking this Assign Styles menu. For instance, if I'd like to have a different font for our site title, I can configure that right here, maybe change to the paragraph font, or even choose a custom font settings, and sizes. Not all text elements can be configured, and this can feel somehow restrictive. Other web builders will allow you to have several fonts site-wide, but Squarespace intentionally limited the options to advocate consistency and site performance, knowing that the more fonts the page has, the slower it loads.
But there are 2 font hacks that I'm excited to share with you that I'm sure you'll find really useful. First, to help manage the sizes of specific text elements without adding code, we may use this scale text feature.
For instance, this phrase is the heading 1 of my page, but I don't want this to be as big as the other heading 1 visually. So what I'll do is still assign the correct heading level to this text, which is H1. Now, the moment we click the scale text feature, Our text will now adjust to the width of our block when we scale or shrink it. To make it more consistent to our design, I'll select all these blocks and move it using my keyboard arrows, and then move our heading 1 to the center. We'll use the same scale feature to create this large text. I can now assign this as my heading 2, and then as soon as we scale this text, notice how it adjusts to the width of the container, and I can even bring it to the edges to create this prominent title block. Now our next font hack is the hidden category called Miscellaneous. I like using this as my accent font. For example, in this project, I'd like to use this Beth Ellen font, and now we can easily assign it to any of our text by using this monospace option. And again, we can use our scale text feature to adjust the size of this text without affecting our heading levels. We'll apply the same to our other accent text. Another important note about fonts is that if we wish to adjust the overall sizing but maintain the ratio of the text sizes, then we can simply adjust the base size pixels. We typically keep it at around 16 pixels to make sure it's still accessible.
Now let's look at site-wide spacing.
To access it, let's go to Miscellaneous, Spacing. The maximum page width controls how our site displays on large screens. The default 1200 pixels helps keep text readable because super wide paragraphs are hard to read. However, for layouts without full width text sections, like most of my designs, I prefer maximizing the width to 3000 pixels and minimizing the site margin to create a more editorial design. Feel free to adjust though based on your preference.
Next, let's customize the site-wide colors.
We define it by specifying the 5 main colors. If you're still exploring colors, then you may use these presets. But if you already have a defined branding, then we may specify the color codes instead. The leftmost is the main background color, while the rightmost is the main text color. It's ideal if you know the color codes, but if that's not available, then you may use my tool called Palette Picker. All you need to do is drop the image, and we may pull the color by just clicking on the image. For example, my main background color is this beige color, so I'll just copy this, and that's the one that I'll assign as the leftmost color. Then this dark color is my text color, so I'll assign it as the rightmost. The middle color is our accent color, and by default this is used to denote links and buttons. For this particular design, I'd like the button to have the same color as my text, so I'll just use the same color as my rightmost color. And then the 2 remaining colors are the light and dark alternative background colors. For example, in my design I have this darker background color, so I'll use this as the 4th color in my palette. Then my lighter secondary background color is this green, so I'll assign it as the 2nd color in my palette. If you don't have any secondary background colors, that's okay, you don't have to specify them. These colors work together to create what we call our color themes. We may then easily assign these color themes to each of our sections. To do so, let's exit our site styles by clicking this paintbrush icon again. Now we enter the edit mode, and notice if I click edit section and click the colors tab, we'll be able to choose from these color themes. For this design, I want this hero section to have this dark color theme. The colors of each color themes are automatically configured, but if we wish to have more granular control, then we may customize each of our color themes. For example, this color theme is dark 1, so I'll click this pencil icon, and now we have the option to change the color of some elements. So for example, if I'd like to change the color of our line block, I can change this to any color from our color palette. Notice how it changed accordingly. And I can also use a custom color. However, this change will affect all line blocks within sections that have dark one color theme. So if the color customization should be isolated to certain elements only, I recommend looking into the options available within the blocks. For example, if we have a text block, we'll notice that we can select any text and we can change its color like so by choosing from our palette or choosing a custom color. For example, I can change that specific text to red without affecting all the other elements within the same color theme. There are also other options such as styling the background and specifying the background color. Again, this change is specific to the block and will not affect other elements.
At this point, you might be wondering, how will we build the rest of the sections? Let's look into powerful section settings that makes the rest of the build easier.
For our next section, we also have two images, so I can simply duplicate our existing section and then just swap the images and move the elements around. I want this text to be moved to the left side and this image to be centered horizontally, so I'll use this alignment options. And for this large image, I want this to be set to fill so it responds to our Fluid Engine grid. I'll arrange the stacking of the center image by using this move forward icon. If you wish to ideate more layout options, Squarespace has this View Layouts tab where it automatically suggests layout options based on the elements added in the section. Before moving to the next section, let's remember to configure our mobile view. For our next section, we actually have background elements, and Squarespace has built-in background elements. If you click Edit section, under background, we have the option to add an image, video, or art as a background. When we add image as background, we'll find that we even have more customization effects like this fluid effect or the parallax, and we may configure it further. I recommend exploring these options. For the specific layout though, I prefer to have two images and have the option to swap them. So I would rather have two images that are side by side each other. To do that, I'll simply duplicate this existing section so I can simply swap these images, delete this text, and make sure our images are flushed to the edges. For this one, I need to make sure it is set to fill. We'll notice that each section has default padding to the top and bottom, and we can no longer adjust our images to fill that height, but we can actually adjust that by going to the Edit section options, and right here we can toggle off the fill screen option. So we'll then remove the default top and bottom padding, and we can now adjust the height of our section based on our tallest elements. We may also manage the gaps in between elements. So if I click Edit section and under gap, we can choose this option to remove all the gaps. And if we wish to make the section taller, we can adjust the elements like so. To add our text overlay, I can simply copy this by hitting Command C on my keyboard and then clicking this section and hitting Command V to paste. If our text is scaled, then it might cause significant disruption to our section when we change the text within it. So a pro tip is I'll hit Command Z to revert back, and what we'll do is disable the scale text feature first, and then that's the time when we'll change the text accordingly. Once we have the proper text and the proper width of our text, that's the best time to enable the scale text feature again. Now I can click Edit section to change our color theme. I want the text to be light, so I'll use any of these darker color themes. To ensure that we have enough contrast, I'll enable the overlay in the images. I can choose a darker color and adjust our opacity. So far, we've got familiar with the main section type of Squarespace, which we call Fluid Section. This section type is ideal if we wish to freely drag and drop elements within the section, but there are also more structured types of sections. In the sections catalog, if we scroll to the images category and scroll through these options, we'll find some which have this information icon. We may choose any of these to access what we call our gallery sections. They're best in showcasing images. As with the Fluid editor, we can also edit the section properties, and we'll find that we can quickly switch from one gallery layout to the other. We have slideshows, grid, and even masonry layout. In this use case, I'd like the ability to open the images in a lightbox, so I'll use the simple grid option and increase the number of columns to 6. I'll also change the aspect ratio to something vertical and reduce the spacing, and then I'll toggle on the option to open the images in a lightbox or pop-up. Now we're ready to change the content. We can simply delete the existing ones by clicking this trash icon and proceed with adding images from our asset library. We may choose multiple items at a time. We want to add simple descriptions. We may do so right in this field for every image, and we may also attach to a link. Now, we don't have the option to add any more elements outside of what's given to us for these gallery fields. So if we wish to add a title or headline to this section, then we can simply use another blank section. Again, we may toggle on the grid, and from here we may consider removing the padding and simply add the text block. I also wish this to be more prominent, and so I will use the scale text feature. But before I do so, I will force a line break to create 2 lines. I will do so by hitting Shift Return on my keyboard and then click the scale text icon afterward. Another type of structured section is the list section. We click the Add Section button, and then under Services, we'll scroll and find another set of layouts with the information icon. We'll find that this type of section has more options for us to add content. Notice that we have a section title, section button, and in each item, we have the option to add a title, description, and even image alt text. This can support up to 250 items, and we'll find that under design, we can switch from simple list to banner slideshow to carousel. Hence, this is my favorite section to use when I wish to create testimonial carousels, like this testimonial carousel on my Standout Squarespace program sales page. I have another YouTube video where I shared how to achieve exactly like this layout. Please check the links below. But for now, we'll create a simpler one by showing one column at a time and by making changes to the size and space of our elements. For example, I'd like the media width to be a lot less in size, and then set our media placement to center. Now I can also change the image crop to a circle one and change the alignment to center. We don't need the buttons for these elements, so I'll toggle the buttons in the items and the section. Then we can proceed with changing the content. For the title, I'll change this to testimonial. Then we may populate each item by changing the title with a testimonial and the description with a source name. And of course, we may replace the placeholder with an appropriate image. From here, we may consider adjusting some of the designs, like for the width, I would love this to be smaller. We may add as many items, and now we have a testimonial carousel. The last section type is what we call the classic editor. This is the editor that Squarespace used before they launched Fluid Engine, but I find it still handy in certain use cases. To access it, we scroll to the end of the sidebar of our section catalog, and we'll find this option to look for sections built with a classic editor. And from here, we'll add a blank section. Upon adding the classic editor, we'll find this button to upgrade. We don't have to click this. Doing so will convert the layout to Fluid, but as I mentioned, I find that the structure in classic editor is useful in cases wherein we want to create columns. When working with classic editor, we won't have the add block button, but we'll have insert lines. So in this case, if I click the plus icon, I'll have the option to add blocks again. And then I can add another video after it, and I can place them side by side by dragging this bottom video block to the side. Blog post items use the classic editor, so it's also best to be familiar with this editor. Our homepage is looking great, but we just need to refine our hero section a bit. If we revisit our design, we'll find that we want this prominent title to look like it's overlapping the second section. To do so, let's remove this extra padding by going to the section properties and toggling off the fill screen option. And then I we'll be able to move this up. Now, to create an illusion that our title is overlapping the next section, we can use a shape block. If I add a shape block and bring it to the bottom of our section, we just need to size it accordingly to create an effect that this is overlapping. I also would like to make this image smaller and move our elements to make sure it's centered. And to add some visual interest, I'll click this image block and click this pin icon, which will allow us to pin or stick this image to the top of our screen. I have another tutorial where I share more about the pinning feature. Please check out the description. Once we preview our page, we'll find that this image is now sticking at the top.
Now let's talk about adding new pages.
One of the key features to help us build the next pages with ease is the saved sections feature. This feature allows us to reuse our section. To access it, we again hover over the section, and this heart icon will allow us to save our section. If you are a Squarespace Circle member, then you'll have the option to save this section to your account to let you apply saved sections to any site within your account. Otherwise, you'll have the option to save the section to this site. If you're not a Circle member, then just clicking the heart icon will automatically save the section to your saved sections catalog. We will then be able to access our saved sections whenever we open our catalog. Under saved sections, you'll find that I can access the section that we saved. Hence, you may actually back up or temporarily hide sections using this technique. More so when we add a new page by clicking this plus icon. If I add a blank page and name it contact, if I wish to use the same gallery as a header of my contact page, I can easily access it and apply to this page. More so, I can change these images or content without affecting the original section. More so, I can change the color theme. And right below, I can add a contact section. There are pre-made contact sections which we can choose from, or we may add a blank section and simply add a contact form. Of course, we may also change our color theme, and that's essentially how we can easily build the rest of the pages. Consider reusing some of the sections that you've already built out. Not only will that make the build process easier, but that will also make the site more memorable. Whenever we add pages, you'll notice we also have the option to add special pages called collections. We can think of collection pages like buckets that organize similar content. They allow us to create consistent layouts for each item. For example, if you visit the resources page on my website, squarestylist.com, you'll find that resource items have similar layouts. Also, collections allow easy navigation between items. Notice how in the end I can navigate to visit the next resource or the previous resource. So this allows us to keep items within the same collection organized and connected. Squarespace offers different collection types: blogs, tour, portfolio, events, videos, and course. To demonstrate, let's add a blog collection. There are pre-made layouts, but you can choose any of these because we can easily switch from one layout to the other. Upon clicking this blog page, we may click this settings icon to configure the page title, navigation title, and the URL slug. The URL slug is very important for SEO, so make sure we change it accordingly. Under SEO, we may configure how it shows up in search results. After saving our changes, we may now look into other blog options. You'll notice that we have an option to add a pricing plan. This is only applicable if you wish to gate your blog content. I also have a separate video about this feature. Please check out the link below. There are placeholder content by default. I recommend deleting them. So if I click one of the items, I can click the select all option and then click delete. We may add a new blog post by clicking the plus icon, and then we'll enter our post title. We may then add content blocks by looking for the insert line. As I've mentioned, this is using the classic editor. And then right here, notice how we have the option to either publish or schedule this post. If we're not ready to publish it yet, we may simply save our changes. When we click exit, we may configure the settings for this particular blog post by clicking this ellipsis inside the item cart. When we click Settings, this dialog box shows up. This is where we can configure the thumbnail image, the excerpt, and update the post URL and other details. Note that under Options, we may specify the category and tags for organization. If the category of this post is lifestyle, I'll just type it in and hit enter. As soon as we populate these settings, we may save our changes. Under the Options menu, we may also set the status, for example, to published. And once we save our changes and switch to our blog overview, we'll find that our blog item is now accessible from here. If you wish to have consistent layout across different items within the blog collection, we may simply click this ellipsis icon and duplicate the existing blog post. When this blog overview is selected and we click this edit button, we'll find that when we hover over the blog section, we won't have the option to move things around, but when I click this edit section, we'll have the option to change the layout. For example, from basic grid, we may choose side by side. When we choose any of these layouts, we can change settings such as columns, horizontal spacing, and more. Though they are called blog collections, they are not necessarily limited only to being collections of articles. I use blog collections a lot in showcasing databases. For example, I use a blog collection to create this showcase of websites created by our students using our program techniques and support. I also used blog collection to create this directory of our Standout Squarespace and Standout Shopify students. Our next collection type is portfolio, and it is often used to present projects and other visual work. Let's create one by clicking this portfolio option and choosing any of these pre-made layouts. This looks similar to our blog collection, but actually when we click our portfolio item and click edit, we'll find that we'll have more flexibility in terms of design. Notice how we can easily add new sections, an option that we don't have within blog post item. Hence, portfolio items really give us a lot of design flexibility, more so we can rearrange them just by dragging and dropping the items in the sidebar. However, unlike blog collections, which can contain unlimited number of blog items, portfolio collections can only contain up to 70 portfolio items. Also, when we click the settings of each portfolio item, we'll find that we don't have the option to add tags or categories. We also have other collection types like events, videos, and course. The editing experience is quite consistent throughout this collection, so I figured it would be much helpful to show examples so you'll be aware of the possibilities. For instance, I use the course collection to create this Selling Squarespace Templates course. This is how it looks like on the student side. So if they click any of these lessons, they will be able to navigate through the chapters and the lessons easily and be able to track their progress too. And I can easily add content such as videos and text as well as PDFs into the content part of my course. Note that this layout is not the default layout of courses, but it's possible using a bit of code which I teach in my course, Standout Squarespace. Squarespace doesn't only allow us to showcase content, we are also able to sell products and services. So if I click this store option, you'll find that we have these pre-made layouts, and I can just choose any of these. As with any collections, we may add any section at the top and bottom of our main collection section. In this case, we have this product list section. Notice how we can edit the style of this section. But when we click this all category, we'll find that we have existing placeholder products that are being shown in this overview. When we visit these items, we'll find that they adapt similar layouts, but we may actually click this edit button and click this edit section option. And notice how we have the option to change the layout of our products. Note that this will be applied throughout all products. For instance, I can switch to this half layout, but notice how I'll lose the other options. So personally, I use the simple layout and just change these settings accordingly. To start adding our products, we delete first all these placeholder ones. So we select all and delete. Then we may add a product using this plus icon. Notice how we have several options. It's important to pick the right product type at the onset because we cannot change it later on. Certain options are only available in certain product types. For example, if we choose downloads or digital downloads, then we won't be able to limit our inventory because digital downloads are assumed to have infinite inventory. Digital downloads also do not support variants. Let's try adding a service product. This is where we can fill in the product details such as product name, description, as well as change the default button text from add to cart to your preference, such as for this package, we may change the button text to book now. We also have an additional info field. This is like our classic editor, wherein we can add content blocks. For example, if we'd like to provide more details about the product like video, we can add them here. And under forms, we may create custom forms per product. And this is helpful if we wish to obtain more information from the customer about their order. This is pretty flexible because we can add any fields like drop-down fields and text field. Of course, we can set the price and the inventory. We may also add variants and be able to assign different pricing per product. For example, if we have different tiers, I can say that for this package, I will have a standard and premium tier, and I can separate them using comma. And as soon as I save it, we'll find that would have the option to specify the SKU stock and price per variant. We may also group our products using categories and tags. There are other more advanced options like automated tax collection, which is supported in certain countries. Other special features such as add-ons, product reviews, related products can also be enabled. And under marketing, we are able to edit how our product appears in search result. Note that whatever information we add to SEO fields like these are simply suggestions to search engines. How search engines would exactly show our products and pages will highly depend on the algorithm. That's a quick walkthrough of the pages that we can add to Squarespace. Now let's refine our navigation, the header and the footer. The header and the footer area appear across all pages, but we have the option to hide them in certain pages, such as landing pages if you wish, by clicking the page settings. And then under navigation, we're able to toggle off this show header and show footer options. Now, to manage the content and style of our header, we enter edit mode, and then we'll notice when we hover over the top, this edit site header option will show up. Once I click it, I will be able to access these elements. Let's start with the site title and logo. If I click this and click the pencil icon, I'll be able to change our site title. We may upload our logo image here, but if we wish to have a different logo image for mobile, then we have that option as well. Now let's edit our navigation. Again, simply click the navigation area and click the pencil icon. Notice how we can reorder our pages. If I exit the edit mode, we'll find that whatever is in the sidebar under main navigation also shows up on our header. So we may also reorder our pages. If there are pages that we don't wish to show up in the navigation, we can simply drag them over to the not linked area of our sidebar. If we wish to add a drop down, we may do so by adding this drop down option. This is like a folder containing other navigation items. So for example, I can name it as shop, and then I can add new pages inside this drop down, or even simply drag and drop existing pages. Back to editing our header, we'll find that we'll also have the option to enable other elements such as the call to action button and social links. And with a cart and account, these are recommended to be toggled on if you have courses or online store in your Squarespace site. Then this language switch option is powered by Weglot extension. Now, in terms of design, we may manage the height of our header by grabbing this row icon. And when we click this edit design button, we'll have more options in terms of design. In terms of layout, for example, I can switch to this centered layout. I can manage the link spacing and enable some of these effects. For example, if we wish the header to be fixed as we scroll, we may use this fixed position option. In terms of color, at the moment, The header adapts to the color of the first section. If you wish it to be a solid color or a gradient, then we can choose these other ones. Now, when we scroll to the very bottom of the page, we'll find the footer area. And once we click this add section option, we'll find some starter layouts for footer. You may choose one to start with, and we're not limited to just one section. If you wish to add more sections, simply make sure you're in the footer area and add more sections as needed. We can add a fluid editor or a classic editor section. Footer sections show up across all pages, so most of the time we use this area to show our social links. So I can add our social links right here. And you may also consider adding a newsletter form. This is an invitation for your audience to subscribe to your mailing list. If we click the block and enter block settings, we can change these content. We also have more design options under the design tab, and under storage, note that by default, signups will show up in the Squarespace dashboard. At the moment, the confirmation email is toggled off, but we can toggle it on. Simply click this link to the contacts dashboard to see the email subscribers. We also have the option to use other storage options like Zapier, Google Drive, or MailChimp. Now, before we launch our site, it's best to preview it in multiple devices. So we head to our home menu, then click our search icon to search for domains. And when we click domains, we'll find the built-in domain automatically generated by Squarespace. We may customize it for easy recall. I may rename it like so and hit save. This is now the unique URL to preview our site. For us to be able to access the content, we need to set the password. So I'll hit / and type site availability to set the password. After saving the password, simply use the domain to view your site in an incognito browser or on your mobile device. Prior to launch, it's important to check that all the links and forms in your website is working, particularly the contact page. You may access our free launch checklist in the description box below. As soon as all the checks are done, we'd likely want to use a branded domain. And to do that, we can head to the domains panel. You may connect an existing domain from other providers. Simply enter the domain right here and you'll be prompted with the next steps. But if you don't have a domain yet, then I highly recommend getting the domain directly from Squarespace. Simply click this Get Domain button. Suggested domains will automatically show up, or you may search the domain of your choice and simply add this to your cart. Finally, to publish our website, we head to the Site Availability menu. And all we need to do is click this public option, but this option will be disabled if we haven't subscribed to a paid Squarespace plan. So I'll click upgrade to publish. These plan options will show up. Squarespace has a really generous basic plan. For most use cases, I recommend the core plan. But if you are selling courses and products in Squarespace to lessen the transaction fees, I also recommend looking into the Plus and Advanced plan. Please note that in some regions, the pricing plans may look different. In this case, it says Personal, Business, Basic, and Advanced. I highly recommend looking into the scope of each pricing plans to decide which one is right for you. I hope you found this video helpful. If you wish to learn more from me and make the most out of your Squarespace sites, especially if you are wanting to offer Squarespace design as a service, then I invite you to check out my free workshop, The Secrets to High-End Squarespace Projects. Please check the description link below.
And there you have it. You now know how to build a beautiful Squarespace website from start to finish. I really hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, I'd really appreciate if you can hit the subscribe button for more Squarespace tutorials. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try to help where I can. Do you want to use custom fonts that are not available in Squarespace? Check out my next video where I share how to use my FontWiz tool to easily add custom fonts to your Squarespace website. I'll link it right here. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.